Bam! MC is in the house. What is going on, folks? My name is Justin Garcia, also known as Master Chim, and welcome to the Warrior Stream. I am here every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Usually hang out for about an hour or so, talking about some stuff, answering some questions, engaging with you guys, and having a good time while doing it. So, who do we got here? Jay Crustle in the house. What's going on, brother man? Jesse, what's up? Good to see you. You guys are watching on YouTube. Those of you guys that are watching on Facebook and other areas, do me a favor and comment. Let me know that you could see me, hear me, all that good stuff. You know the game we're playing. So please help me play it well. Before we get into the content for today, it is worth noting that if you guys are not yet on the Master Chim letter, which is my email list, you should be doing that. It is a daily email. It's completely free. You go to masterchim.com, put your email in, and you start getting emails the next day. I will say that every relevant link of the things that are going on in my life are in the description, depending on where you're watching this. I think Twitter doesn't allow the descriptions, but everybody else, it should be there, all my relevant links. But the email is a good place to start. That's usually where I let everybody know what's going on. What's up, Jamie? My man up in Canada. What's up, Big Joe? Good to see you. All right. So today, the topic is heal the world. And what does that mean? Well, if you couldn't tell from what's up, Herman? If you couldn't tell from the spelling of the word heal, it wasn't a misspelled word, a typo. It is actually what I see, the influences, the powers that be, everything that's out there and we're engaging, that seems to be their mission, seems to be get everybody sort of to heal the way a well-trained pet would. What's up, Jan Saxa? Good to see you. And when I look at, how people are conducting themselves these days, and, it really speaks to a frustration that I've had for a long time. And I'll say, this is all on me. I've got to own this. I'm not somebody that has a lot of patience for people. I just had a session yesterday with a couple of experts on just organizing some of my content and stuff. And because, I consider myself to be creative and I'm all over the place. And they were asking me, okay, well, what do you not want on any of your content? And I said, I don't want my stuff, like there's 4 things that can never be, connected to my material. I said, it can't be feminine. It can't be gay. I said, the 3rd thing is it can't be feminine. And the 4th thing is that it can't be gay. Out of the 2 guys, one of them was looking at me like he just saw, something that defied logic. And the other guy had a chuckle because he realized I was just being, a pain in the ass. I was just trying to be funny. But the point of it is, for me, it's never been a strong point for me to have patience with people who are so offset in their behavior that, to me, it's just an anomaly that I can't get past. And I would say when it comes to my relationship with society at large right now, when I look at just how fucking simple it is to not do certain things that will help you as an individual and how people still reject these things, I understand the logic of it, or I should say I understand the psychology of it. I know how these people wind up making these decisions. But holy shit, the why is something that I just can't get past. So I put for the title card, running out of fucks. And I got to be honest, that's exactly what's happening to me. Over the years, there are people who, I'll give you an example, they're, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. You want to work out? No, I got this new game. I got this new video game, or the football game is on, and it's like, I would say at a higher frequency in the past, I would ask them, like, are you fucking stupid? Like, well, what do you mean you're going to, and I would sit there and chastise them as if their success and improvement was anchored to sort of my reputation, like as if I made some oath to make sure these people did the right thing. I had a lot of tyrannical tendencies because of that aspect of my personality. But as time has gone on, I would say now it is the exact opposite in terms of probability of what reaction you're going to get to me, because I'm running out of fucks. I'm running out of fucks when I look at people who are still, posting about fucking sport games, and they're still posting about, I'm going to argue about this politician and that politician. And it's like, listen, I understand the need to participate in, in the governance of society from an individual standpoint. I've spoken about this at length in the past, but you have people out there that are getting so upset about it, so emotional, that I know they're sabotaging your ability to be the best person they can be for the things that directly affect them and their families. Guys that, go on drinking binges because their sport team lost the big game or the big series or whatever the fuck. I had one of my coaching students tell me yesterday that Sunday was the Super Bowl. I had no fucking idea. And I played football in college, Division III. I played football in college. It's just, there's a point where it's like, you guys are still doing that with all the information here. And then what winds up happening after a while is you realize that these individuals don't want to change. They don't want to get any better. And that's I admit it's tough for me to see that. I consider myself to be a coach. Thanks to my mother, I have this gear in my head where I'm always trying to fucking help people. And I blame my mother for that. Ma, hope you're watching. It's all your fault. I think I explained to her once, she was going through one of her, emotional women periods of her life where she was, Justin, she asked me, Justin, is there anything that I gave you that you value? Or she asked me something like that. I hope she's watching. She's going to kick out of this. And I said, I think thanks to you, I have empathy for other people. Like I worry about other people and I want to help other people. And she told me that was like an incredibly powerful moment for her, that she appreciated that. Meanwhile, I think at the time I was blaming her for that. It's like, man, if you didn't put all this empathy shit in my head, life would be so much clearer. Oh, man. But I got to say, it's, right now, as I'm 48, married, 4 kids, a bunch of businesses, a bunch of people that I really care about, that care about me, that I'm surrounded by. Like, I don't have any complaints about life, but it's just even more of an argument that I constantly see myself facing, where it's like, why are you continuing to try and help people that at every turn have rejected, your efforts to do so? And there's something to be learned in acknowledging that. Dan Kennedy is the guy where I first heard the phrase "recruit, don't convert." And Dan Kennedy's a marketing, dare I say, guru, a business master. And he's somebody whose opinions I respect a great deal when it comes to the applications of these concepts. And, for him, the whole recruit, don't convert makes sense when overlaid on top of my understanding of tribalnomics, which is, well, if you have a finite amount of energy and resources, energy being a subset of resources, so let's just say resources, wouldn't you want to make sure that this amount of resources was processed in some way that at least replaced itself, if not grew, in the form of an investment in that return? That's something that we should be looking to do with all of our resources. Like I said, not only energy, but time goes into that category. It's not just money, so there's a point where, as an individual, if you are disconnected from what that process is, it just makes sense not that I advocate for it or agree with it or anyway, but it just makes sense that people are going to gravitate towards what makes them feel better. They're going to gravitate toward doing the things that are cathartic, that cheer them up. Like there's a point where an individual needs to look outside of himself. This is where tribe comes in, by the way, and realize, okay, these are the things that I need to work on. These are the things that the habits that have formed from these bad cathartic rituals. And it's sort of like if you liken somebody having a bunch of wrong decisions one after the other to putting themselves in a ditch. A lot of people pride themselves on how well they can climb out of the ditches. Well, yeah, I yelled at my boss and he fired me, but I got another job the next day I'm the guy that says, well, maybe we shouldn't dig those ditches to begin with. We have to get good at climbing out of them because, shit happens. But how about if we're playing the long game here, we just not dig them in the first place? So when I look at individuals, right, I have a list that I put on the email, today's email. Like I said, masterchim.com. If you're not getting the email, you should be getting it. And I included some topics, a couple of talking points to flesh this idea out. And the first one is, let's skip the first one. Let's go to the second one first. The rituals of a loser. All right, the rituals of a loser. Now, if you perform these rituals, I'm not saying you're a loser. But what I will say is that losers have these rituals. So, if you lie, I'm not saying you're a liar, but liars lie. Like it's one of those things, do what you want with it. A guy who, and a woman, like these things are universal. Anybody who feels better about themselves through the actions of others is a loser if they have not directed those actions. So what am I talking about here? If your life is feeling shitty and the only way you can feel better about your shitty life is if the stranger on the television wins the game, I'm not saying you're a loser, but if there was a loser party, I think they'd let you in. Let's just put it that way. They wouldn't know you're not a loser. In other words, if you're somebody who makes $500 a week and spends $500 a week, you're probably a loser. If you're somebody who has absolutely no understanding of their life in a long-term, big picture sense and just pretends like every day is a struggle that they just need to get past, and everything is instant gratification and a short game mentality, well, if life is a game, you are likely to lose it. There are a lot of things that losers do that are exclusive to losers. How do I know? Because I look at the winners, and the winners don't do that shit. Like you are being, let's actually get to the next one. I'll get back to the first one. Probably should have put the first one last, but the next one in the list that I put, how folks today fight for slavery. There are people who, I think one of the great things about the internet and actually one of the benefits of social media is that people are starting to get it. And when people are getting it at the level that they are these days, you have people who are influencers who also get it. And it is a way for getting it to be sort of propagated amongst the society. Right now, if you look at the distractions that are being put in place by, let's just say, the people in charge, right, of society, that is. Ain't nobody in charge of me, fuck that. But people in charge of society, look at how one thing that could potentially unearth some sort of liability for them is immediately co-opted by a story about something else that's seemingly irrelevant, but captures everybody's attention, like the shiny object, right? Well, there are people today who are so disconnected from anything that matters in a transcendent sense, like morality, virtue, these things that go beyond, the season of life that we're in, go beyond the mood that we're in, or maybe the living situation that we're currently in. Like these values, when an individual is anchored to them significantly, they keep them grounded during these bouts of potential distraction. It's like if you have a bunch of your friends who are all hanging out one day and you have work, there's a certain point where you're going to tell your friends, assuming that you need what the job is going to give you in terms of pay or whatever. You tell your friends, listen, I'd love to hang out, but I got to go to work. You got to go to work. Your identity in that particular example is so anchored to the action of going to work that it trumps any of the potential distractions from your friends for not going to work. Well, today, people fight to be distracted. They fight by criticizing, outcomes of sports, having emotional discussions about TV shows, fictional like stories, and it's like their ability to make an impact in their lives is connected to artificial reality. And I don't mean that literally. I mean that in a sense that there is nothing tangible that they've anchored their efforts to. So what winds up happening is their ability to feel good about themselves, their very ability to generate any self-esteem is controlled by external sources and the people who are in charge of them. They are not even in control of their own freedom. This is how they fight to be slaves. The last thing that I want to talk about, it's actually the first thing on the list, how anyone can own their day. All right, so I'm going to go over some quick just tactics for an individual to sort of unplug from the matrix, right? Let's go with that imagery. Everybody could choose the time that they wake up. It takes a little bit of discipline to choose what time they go to sleep. Admittedly, that's a process. That's, if there are a bunch of rungs on the ladder of controlling one's day, waking up is that first one. The alarm goes off, get the fuck up out of bed. Put the alarm in the other room. There's all sorts of gadgets and gizmos nowadays you can buy to basically make sure you're up at that time. When you get up, what you do as soon as that happens is up to you. For me, it's about moving, connecting with my body first. I do some sort of mobility routine. I do my breathing routine. Eventually, I wind up, when I shower in the morning, that's where I get my cold shower in. I walk the dog in the morning. Like every morning, I have these rituals that happen when I wake up. Everybody could do that. If you say you can't do it, you're a fucking liar, right? And you're probably a loser also. Some liars are winners, but you would be a liar and a loser. It's like, if you're going to be a liar, at least be a winning liar, right? Well, I wake up at 6 and I got to be on the bus by 6:45 and I only have whoa. Shut the fuck up for a second. If you wake up at 6 and you have to be on the bus at 6:45 and you need 45 minutes to do that, maybe you should fucking wake up at 5:30. There's really no excuse for not waking up when you're supposed to. Or I should say, there are only excuses for not waking up when you're supposed to. There is no reasoning behind it. Some people just don't want it. And that's, it gets back to what I was talking about earlier. Some people just don't want to make these changes. And that was hard for me to realize, because I would get to like this point in the conversation and they'd go, yeah, but I got to sleep more. And I go, no, you don't. You actually just set the alarm and you wake up. No, but I like my sleep. And it would be like I was like they were talking to a wall because it was my fault. It's like, oh, you like being a loser, right? You're winning, but in the contest to be the biggest loser, just a different dynamic. And I had to respect that, which has its own ironies to me. It's like I wanted to help people, but I found out the only way to help them is to, number one, respect the autonomy that they have to become a fucking loser. It's like, that's what you could do. So you wake up in the morning, you have something to do. You don't know what you're going to do for the rest of the day. That's fine in the beginning. Just own that morning. When you own that morning, the day belongs to you. You start the day off centering yourself on you, on your body, on your energy. You don't start allowing all these stories into your head. It's just you and the air around you, the floor underneath your feet, feeling your body, your blood pressure go up and your heart rate go up if you're moving a little bit. Then you let all the artificial things in eventually, because you have to. So the first thing you want to start owning your day is waking up on time. The next iteration or the next level of ownership over this 24 hours is going to sleep at the same time. There's too much data out there now where, it's like, yeah, going to sleep and waking up at the same time is really good for your body's ability to recover during its sleep cycles. Find out when that is. There's something called chronotypes where some people tend to sleep a little bit earlier, wake up early. Some people, like myself, will go to bed a little bit later, wake up a little later. That's programmable, but it's not like, oh, it can't be. I'm a guy that wakes up late, goes to sleep late. This isn't going to work for me. It's all relative. It's all relative. So you start going to sleep at the time that you want to. And I would say, it's probably a worthwhile investment for you guys to, I use a Fitbit. You guys should be tracking the quality of your sleep. I had no idea when I was younger just how valuable sleep was. It's never really been something I'd had trouble doing. I'm one of these guys that has always had the superpower of I lay down, I'm unconscious 30 seconds later. But that changes over time. It depends on what I got going on. I got all these projects going on right now. Sometimes, I have to make sure that I am winding down. I am not drinking, caffeine past a certain point. It requires a little bit of discipline. Don't always get it right. But I got to start putting myself in a position to succeed, especially if it goes so far as to me noticing deficiencies in my ability to adhere to my routines. It's like, oh yeah, all right, I got to take a step back and dedicate a little bit more time to this. So you're going to sleep at the same time. You're waking up early enough to be able to have that morning routine. If you're able, or eventually you should commit to being able to track your sleep quality. That's important. Then it's got to move. Every day you got to move. I'm at my desk here a lot during the course of the day. And I have a mini trampoline. I have some property that I walk the dog around a few times a day. I have a pull-up station, just like one of those bar stand things you get from Amazon, that is right outside my office that I do hangs, and stretches throughout the day whenever I'm walking in and out of my office. I find a way to stay connected with my body, my mobility, my energy, my heart rate, all these different things. If I had to give somebody some just starting advice, it's like that's where I would start. But you look at people today, and I remember one of the things when I dropped a bunch of weight, I was up to 280, 290 at one point. And, I'm down to 240 now. When I first decided to lose weight, I used to have to play tricks on myself. I would look at, food, and I spoke about this before, but I would look at food that I shouldn't be eating, that wasn't, going with my macros. And whoever was selling it to me, or whoever who was selling it, I would look at them and go, look, this motherfucker would sell me this thing. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about my family. He knows that I shouldn't be eating that. But if I give him the money, he's still going to sell it to me. That shows how much he doesn't give a shit about me. I'm just some idiot that, like, I would make up the story in my head to the point where I hated the guy that was selling the stuff I wasn't supposed to be eating. It was completely, artificial, but it was a narrative that allowed me the discipline, the energy to maintain the discipline to stay on mission. If I didn't have a connection with my body and my sleep and everything that I described to this point, I wouldn't be able to really react effectively to those tricks and those strategies, that I play to comply to whatever the plan is. So, you guys don't have to flip a switch and have this thing figured out by the end of the day. But again, it's like you people that just fucking eat the shittiest food and just have absolutely no framework for your days. Like, listen, if you're in you're in your teens, early 20s, like, yeah, we're all fucking retarded at that stage of our lives, and you get permission to be a fucking retard too, where that's concerned. But at a certain point, like, you have a family, you have children, you have people that count on you, and you still haven't made any fucking effort to control this shit. Like, what are you doing? I'm not going to be the guy that's going to sit there and go, hey, man, as long as you're happy, that's what, like, no, it's not as long as you're fucking happy. Go look at a drug addict. They get happy when they take drugs. Like, there are plenty of things that we could be happy that have absolutely nothing to do with adding to the quality of who we are as an individual or the ecosystem that we're influencing. Let me get to some questions here, some comments. Cherrytown Vibe, what's going on? Caceres, what's up? Big Derek, what's going on? Jake Russell says, I'm in a minority within my community when it comes to sports ball and not caring. And it's something that I think more and more men nowadays are starting to realize. It's like you look at the NFL. Remember the NFL a few years ago when it came to the Black Lives Matter and everything was political and people kneeling? It's like, motherfucker, you're playing a game. Like, shut the fuck up and play the fucking game. Wherever your politics are, and hopefully you weren't on that side of it, or else you're a fucking idiot, but that's an aside. We're watching games. What the fuck are these people rambling on about? The NBA was having Black Lives Matter on their courts and stuff, and guys kneeling. Like, what the fuck? Like, backward, bizarro world do these people fucking think they live in? But as soon as they stopped doing that over the top shit, everybody was like, okay, I forgive them, because they need their fucking sports. They need their fucking sports. Like, grow the fuck up. Johnny Groove says people only want help when they decide they need help. It's absolutely true. And it was a lesson I had to learn many years ago. Because I was the tyrant. To me, it was, I'm going to help you whether you fucking like it or not. Not very helpful when you're trying to help people like that. Corey, what's up, brother, man? Good to see you. Derek says, I agree. I heard some quote once or read, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Make sure your monetary and tribe gives you a positive ROI. I think enough people don't realize the influence of their environment on their behavior. Like, you got to understand, we all have that internal dialogue, but every bit of pursuit of the drives that our internal dialogue is generating comes or is related in our mind by the feedback that we get from our surroundings. Like, imagine if, like, I remember growing up in the Bronx, you go to the park and there'd be a bunch of dudes smoking weed. There'd be a bunch of dudes playing ball and then a bunch of dudes smoking weed. If you tell the dudes that were playing ball, like, let's not play ball, let's go smoke weed, they'd be like, nah, I'm good. Thanks, I'm over here. If you told the people, let's stop smoking weed, let's play some ball, nah, I'm good, I'm over here. But neither one of those crowds was really pressuring a member of that crowd to join the other crowd. There's nobody in the smoking weed crowd that was saying, we should really stop smoking weed. We should start smoking ball. Smoking ball. We should stop playing ball. Like, nobody's telling themselves that. because the feedback loop allows that internal dialogue to get an understanding and a level of equilibrium where they're comfortable. I don't want to be comfortable in the surroundings I'm at. I want to be pressured because I know that's going to keep me honest. Jacked Up Leatherworks, what's going on? All right. 12 Pack says, I recently had colon cancer surgery, just finished my first work. I'll never give up no matter how low things can be. Right on. Good for you. That's what I want to hear. You know, you got to understand, there are people that are going through shit every moment of every day. And there's always perspective to be had. But taking all of that and putting it on the side, the thing is, if we tell ourselves that we're going to wake up every day, we're going to own the day, maybe even using some of the strategies that I had mentioned, and no matter what we face, we're going to face it with clarity, with the conviction of who we are, what our standards are as an individual, as a man, as a woman, whatever your code is. If you say everything that I do, I'm going to do as me, as if I'm going to sign off on it, then when we are faced with something, as challenging, and I've never had cancer, but when we are faced with a challenge, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but at least we have a blueprint to follow. And that's a hell of a lot better than just sitting there, just starting the why is me, how could this happen narrative, and have people around you maybe even supporting that narrative. So good on you. Good to hear that. Right on. Joe Rotundo says, wake up ritual sets today. You decide the outcome from the moment you open your eyes. And I tell you, it's one of these things that everybody has control over. As soon as you wake up, what do? I mean, if you're some paraplegic that, gets around by putting his tongue on a fucking electric remote control or something, maybe it's not a big wide assortment of options you have. But anybody like that, just lick on your typewriter and I'll help you out too, because there's power to be had. No fucking excuses. I don't know where the fuck that came from. You got to let it out. All right. Cherrytown Vibe says it's called circadian rhythm when you get your sleep cycle right. Yeah, and that rhythm, it goes on 24 hours a day. And there is a whole influence of other factors that play a role. Like one of the things, and listen, you do what you fucking want. Like some people like, yeah, that's bullshit. Whatever. Okay. Me, I stopped wearing shades, sunglasses. I'll wear shades, sunglasses if I'm on my motorcycle. If I'm doing an activity where there is just too much ambient reflective light that it's fucking with me, then yeah, I'll wear that. But as a general thing, disrupting, getting light on my face early in the day. I just actually ordered another pair of blue light blockers because I don't know where the fuck mine went. But even that's like something at night, having those on to block blue light allows your, melatonin production to increase, allows you to stop arguing with your body, because it's seeing this blue light, it's starting to think, or it's thinking that it's still daytime somewhat. And it just winds up sabotaging your ability to maintain that rhythm. So we want to do everything in our power to maintain that rhythm, because then it is reliable, right? And that's the goal. Jake DiMaggio says, it still is. I heard they did the Black National Anthem during the Super Bowl. The Black National Anthem, is that... So from what I remembered, they referred to Lift Every Voice and Sing as being the Black National Anthem. Can somebody confirm that? Is that what they did? So here's a couple things. I don't care if they sang a song during the Super Bowl. All right. Number one, like, it's the fucking Super Bowl. The whole thing's fucking retarded to begin with. The whole thing is a consumer like intensive. It's like everybody who is out to convince you to do something with your money is trying to be in the big game, because that's what the real game that matters is. It's not the football game. It's the game of how they could convince you to participate in their business cycles. Now, the Black Knight, if it's Lift Every Voice and Sing, then, which I think it was, like, I'll give you guys a little background on me. Like, where I grew up in the Bronx, I went to junior high school at John Philip Sousa on Baychester Avenue across the street from Edenwald Projects. And I was in the chorus, right? So you had the option for music, either to be in the band or chorus. I didn't get the opportunity to be in band, so I went to chorus. And we sang Lift Every Voice and Sing. I love that song. Great fucking song. Again, it's an example of things being politicized so that people could argue. And they could argue that their side's right. It's like an individual, and Jake, I'm not saying that this pertains to you, although you did have a mask on in your picture, which I'm just gonna leave that on the side for now. We'll talk about that later. But if you're somebody who is allowing a stranger to enrage you about some other stranger, it's like you have to take a step back. My whole thing is, I'm not mad at the people who are doing that to the Super Bowl. Like, don't you fucking do that to this. Don't you? It's just, no, this is why I don't do this. This is why I don't participate in that. That's my reaction. It's not about, I'm angry at them because they're not doing what they said they were going to do, or they're changing the circus. How dare you change the circus? I like my clowns to dance a certain way. Did you hear that they changed the way the clowns are dancing in the circus? These scumbags. Must be Jews. The Jews are changing the way the clowns are dancing in the circus. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? Why do you guys have so much fucking time to be angry at strangers? It's like, motherfucker, did you wake up on time this morning? Did you work out today? Did you check in with your kid? Did you hug your wife? Did you sit there and dedicate some time to just contemplating everything that you should be grateful for? Like, do all that shit, and then I will hear what you have to say about getting fucking angry at these strangers because those strangers told you to be angry. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Listen, I'm not saying anybody's got to remove any of that shit from your list. Do what you want. All right. All I'm saying is, if there is a priority list of how we should be investing our efforts, where the fuck is getting angry at the Super Bowl on it? Man. Corey says they had zero political beliefs until they became millionaires. Well, I will say, to be truthful, I didn't give a fuck about tax until I started a business. So there is something to that. But I do understand the sentiment. What I will say is, it's shame on us if we're listening to actors and athletes about how we should govern society and about morality. It's like, listen, this guy's really famous because he plays a game really well. This other person's really famous because they know how to pretend like they're other people on film very well. Like, at no point has somebody ever demonstrated, the ability to actually do the thing that you're accepting from them. Jake says, thoughts on the Islam versus Volk fight. I don't know what that is. I'm pretty sure that none of the professional sports teams chose those names. So, and the Islam versus. Okay. So the fact that you put Volk fucked me up. You're talking about Volkanovski. Jake, if you did that on purpose, that was pretty fucking slick. So you're talking about the Makhachev Volkanovski fight. I'm thinking you're talking about Muslims versus Germans or some shit. I didn't hear about that. I'm not on that email newsletter, right? So what did I think about that fight? I mean, to be honest, I had a conversation with a couple of people before that fight, and I can't say it was too different from what I expected. well, the things that I was surprised about was it seems like Makhachev was getting a little fatigued. The fact that he was able to be to take some damage, his later rounds. Like I didn't anticipate that. I thought that I knew that Volkanovski was tough as shit. I think he was behind the eight ball too because he was just smaller. It's something that he was moving up a weight class, and those weight classes, they're significant. I've had fighters fight in different weight classes, and like, listen, it's a different game, much more so than people may realize. It's just 10 pounds. What's the difference? It's a thing. There are whole body types that can make one weight class that they can't just lose some more weight to make the next one. It's like there's a whole another subset of body types that can make that next one. And the way that these things play out, it's something that I think goes beyond. It might even be counterintuitive to somebody when they logically, look at the effects of those size differences between weight classes. I knew that, Makhachev is tough as shit. Volkanovski is tough as shit. Both of them get after it. I knew it was going to be a war, and it was. But I can't say I was too surprised with the outcome. Cherrytown Vibe writes, why does it feel so good and comforting to hang around people who allow you to stay in the circle of being a loser to even begin with? Why don't we like when people are being honest with us? Well, the thing is, what we have to stay connected to is the quality of the insights of those people. If you have somebody who has no job, who smokes weed all day, who asks for money from his mother every morning before she goes to work, and this dude's like 35, it's like if you're hanging out with that dude and you feel like you're being a loser and you ask him for his advice, like, what the fuck do you think he's going to say? So is this sort of a self-fulfilling cycle of spiraling downward that a lot of these people surround themselves or expose themselves to. And it's really not a mystery. It's like we got to ask, which is why it's so important. If you read my book, this idea of a transcendent ally, right? These values that are out of our reach, meaning we can't fuck them up. Like having these values that we stand by and represent and look to emulate in our lives. Like these things are important because if we go by what we're telling ourselves or, the quality of the feedback we're getting from the people around us, sometimes it's like we're a loser, they're fucking losers, and we're on the path to loserdom. If we have those transcendent values, it's one of those things that helps us orient ourselves despite where we might be in any one given situation. Sarah says, Andrew Huberman, neuroscientist, speaks on getting early morning sunlight in your eyes. Started doing it, quite energizing. Like, listen, there is, and I've watched some of his videos. I like him and his content. I think he has a lot of valuable stuff to share. It's old wisdom. It's, it's like, yeah, you should get sunlight on your eyes, like not minimizing the significance of hearing that from a neuroscientist. However, I will say, what other things do we know that people prior to modern civilization did every day and still managed to thrive, or maybe because of that thrived in much harsher times than these? It's like, yeah, get up and move your body. Get up when the sun's up. Go to sleep when the sun goes down. Like there are these things that they kind of make sense. And I think every time that science reinforces it, it's a net positive, right? It's a gain to everybody's pursuit of applying those strategies to their lives. Because some people need to hear the science say it. Other people, you got some old dude somewhere going, like, what are you talking about? I don't need a fucking neuroscientist to tell me that, But listen, I'll take the wisdom from both of them by all means. Jake said people were saying Volk's shortness actually helped his takedown defense. Well, I'll tell you, I'm 5'5", I'm built like a fucking tree stump. I have been my whole life. And yeah, it's tough to take me down. It is tough to take me down. There's there's something to be said for, the physics, the physics of it, and depending on the level of wrestling that one has, and or judo, right? I'm not a body type that's built to get taken down. Let's put it that way. Jamie says, street kid culture, they really do have each other's back out there until one of them attempts to better the situation, which in their minds only highlights the fact that they are losers by choice. And so they hate on that person, their supposed friend, or for bettering themselves. And you know what? I'll add another take on it too. I agree with that sentiment. I'll add another take, more, universal, blueprint type take on it. It's like they have a culture. That street kid culture is a culture. And they have a morality that has been developed and evolved within that culture. And when somebody is deviating from that culture, they're a deviant. And any viable, functional tribe and culture, functional in the pursuit of what it is that they hold valuable, being a street kid, being the value in this case, any functioning tribe is going to have a regulation scale. I mock you, so I don't have to punish you, so I don't have to exile you. So there's going to be that same escalation. It's just that we, from an outside perspective and position, can see the merits of the deviant behavior if the behavior is being judged as deviant by a street kid culture value, right? So I hope that makes sense. So it's almost like, of course they're going to mock the kid that's doing better for himself, which just lends itself as some valuable information for that kid. It's like, he's trying to do the right thing, but all my friends are making fun of me. Well, they have to make fun of you because they're not making the changes you are. So you are deviating from their behavior. So it's not that what you're doing is invaluable. It's that, of course, they're doing that because they have to defend their relationship with who they are. And that's all they're doing. This is more them on them thing than a them on you thing. I would say that to the kid who's getting hated on by his friends for trying to better himself. Cherry says, by the way, I ran into Glover Teixeira last Sunday at the tournament in Connecticut. I mentioned to him that I trained under you, and his eyes lit up. Yeah, Glover's a good dude. I trained with him back in the day a bunch of times. Talk about one of the nicest guys, nicest authentic guys in MMA. I don't think you'll ever find somebody more authentic than Glover. He's nice to the point of like, why is he so nice? It's like, holy shit. He's like a farm boy from Brazil and just good dude, great energy, always smiling. Everything you see on TV, it's exactly how he is. All right. Joe says World War I and II wiped out 2 generations of fathers and sons. The world over scarring those who survived psychologically, if not physically. Much lost wisdom and many lost rituals. And I agree with that. There are a lot of people who became disconnected from the media by which they got, the processes, the systems by which they got that wisdom from prior generations by losing those people. And a lot of people are still, fighting their way back culturally from those gaps, that those wars brought on. There is an episode of the Pressure Project podcast that I did years ago that it might have been called Black Fatherlessness or something like that. I forget the name of it. A lot of episodes. But basically I was laying out the logic for, like, listen, if you don't have a dad, if you don't have access to that masculine wisdom and knowledge and modeling behavior, like, okay, you don't have it. Like at this point, it's like, okay, how do we design to get it? And what rituals you could encounter and where you can sort of get feedback from other sources, because the most traditional one just isn't available to you. You got to figure shit out. Fatherless bastards. Ike Love in the house. That is the name of the episode. Man, I had some great fucking episode names back in the day. That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, I went over my list. I think I hit every comment here. bunch of guys listening now. I'm here next Wednesday. There are going to be some changes that are continuing in my content. I'm still going to be here on Wednesdays, but I got a lot of things in the works, as I always do. And because of the growth of my mastermind group, it has been a ramp up in output and people that are relying on me from day to day. And it has been an incredibly empowering change of pace for me. I consider myself to be creative, and I like being creative every day. I write my email every day. I interact with different people every day in my coaching sessions and whatnot. But I started this one big project with my mastermind, which is going very, very well. I just had a call this morning, and that is sort of leading the train of other projects that are going to expand the operation that is me. So there's that line from that Jay-Z song, "You're a businessman. I'm a businessman." So I don't share that too often, but I am excited about all the projects that I got growing. This is a long ass comment. I gotta share this because Jamie might have got a finger cramp typing it. I got you, Jamie. He says children who grew up fatherless are 8 times more likely to go to prison, 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 20 times more likely to have behavioral problems, 20 times more likely to become rapists, 32 times more likely to become runaways, 10 times more likely to abuse chemical substances, 9 times more likely to drop out of high school, 1/10 as likely to get A's in school, and the Institute for probably a whole lot more in your comment that my interface does not include. So that's all I got to read. But yeah, I've shared those, statistics, maybe not those specific ones, but relevant statistics, on a lot of content before. And I think it's important to have those statistics, but at a certain point, it's like you got to question the person who still requires them, but I'll end it on that. I appreciate you guys. Your support. Make sure you're getting the emails. Listen, not everybody not everybody's an entrepreneur. Not everybody's going to participate in my mastermind group, and I completely understand that. But I do have other things that you can participate in besides the email and these live shows and other content that I put on YouTube. And you can check the links for that. Not for everybody, but if you want more stuff, maybe a little bit more organized and packaged a little bit more professionally, then I have a lot of other things that'll probably suit you. So check out those links for that. But aside from that, I appreciate you all for watching. Much gratitude for spending your time with me. And I will see you guys next week. And as always, brothers and you sisters out there, pressure to power.